everyone, and welcome to episode 67 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Formulation Series, Solvents. So I spoke with you guys last podcast and I told you I wanted to create a series this go round for this podcast so that people who are interested in formulation, we can talk about various topics surrounding formulation. And because formulation actually has many moving parts, I thought it was very appropriate to kind of break it up a little bit and speak about a lot of these topics individually. So today we are going to talk about solvents that are in your formulations. We're going to look at what they are, their characteristics, which solvents to use for which type of formula that you're trying to create, and some key things to know about solvents. So as I always say, get your pens, get your paper, get them out tonight. Now, if you are listening on the replay, or if you are cleaning, as some have said, while listening to my podcast, don't worry. You can always catch this, like I said, on the replay. I've got some information for you tonight. I hope that it will be able to help you determine which are the best type of solvents to use in your formulation. And I kind of want to give you a breakdown. So it's important to me to define solvent. Now, I know for some this may seem elementary, but because I am an herbalist educator and my overall goal is to make sure that you actually understand what I'm saying and you get the information. It's not about my ego or what I think or you should know this already. No, I want to make sure, extra sure, that I give you all the information so that you can be a successful herbalist, plant enthusiast, person, the most successful that you can be, and making sure that you have all the information at your fingertips. So let's look at the origin of the word solvent. And the title for that is etymology. That's what they call the origin of a word. The word solvent is derived from the Latin word solventum, which is a substance able to dissolve other substances or a fluid that renders other bodies liquid. Webster's Dictionary defines solvents as a usually liquid substance capable of dissolving or dispersing one or more substances. Now, why is this conversation about solvents important in the field of herbal medicine? The conversation is important because solvents are the key to extracting the active compounds from the herbs, which directly affects the potency, effectiveness, and safety of your herbal formulation. So let's dive into the solvents as well as their characteristics. Now, solvents are special liquids that help pull out useful ingredients from plants. Each solvent works best for certain types of ingredients because of something called polarity. Just like different magnets pick up different metals, we choose the right solvent based on what we want to extract from the plant. So water-loving solvents grab water-loving ingredients, while oil-loving solvents pull out oil-loving ingredients. So picking the right solvents help us get the most valuable stuff from the plant. And when I say valuable stuff, I mean the phytochemicals. Now, I mentioned the word polarity. So let's talk about that because it's very important when you are talking about solvents. The word polarity comes from the root word polar, which means having two opposite ends or poles. Polar comes from the Latin word polaris, meaning of the poles. So in geography, we think of the north and south poles, just to kind of give you a visual, which are the opposite ends of the earth. Now, the suffix ity, so you have polar and then you have ity, is added words to mean the state or condition of. So when we put the word polarity together, it refers to the condition of having two opposite ends or sides. And in science, it describes how certain molecules have a positive end and a negative end, which affects how they interact with other substances. So in a nutshell, polarity is about how electrons are shared within a molecule. To give you a little bit more of a visual of polarity, imagine a molecule as a group of atoms holding hands. So in polar molecules, which are unevenly shared electrons that attract water, Some of the atoms hold the electrons tighter, creating a slightly positive and negative end on both sides. It's almost like a child holding a toy more tightly than the next. So in nonpolar molecules, which also repels water, electrons are shared evenly. And it's almost like a child holding hands with another child with equal strength. So if they're trying to squeeze, they're squeezing both with equal strength. And that will give you an idea of nonpolar molecules. So when we talk about polarity, why is it important as far as our herbal formulations? So number one, it helps us to efficiently extract the phytochemicals from the plant. So polar solvents, like I said before, like water, they are good at extracting polar compounds from herbs, like vitamins or sugars. So nonpolar solvents, like oils, are better at extracting nonpolar compounds, like some essential oils. All right. Now, another reason why polarity is important in herbal formulation is that you get to target specific compounds. So by choosing the right polarity of a solvent, you can target the extraction of the specific beneficial compound from the plant that you're actually looking for. Another benefit is formulation stability. So mixing ingredients with similar polarity helps create stable formulations that don't separate easy on you. Number 4, absorption by the body. So understanding polarity helps predict how well compounds will be absorbed by the body, as cell membranes have both a polar and nonpolar region. And number 5, combining ingredients. Knowing polarity helps in mixing different herbal extracts or adding them to bases like creams or oils more effectively. So when you're combining the ingredients, knowing the polarity of all the different herbs versus the solvents and all that kind of stuff, it helps you to know that they will actually be able to combine efficiently and well, because that's very important. So that's polarity in a nutshell. Very interesting topic. It doesn't have to sound confusing at all. I know once you start talking about electrons and atoms and stuff, some people's eyes cross. But when it comes to herbal formulation, from a scientific standpoint, this would be something that you would want to know, especially if you want to enhance the potency of your herbal formulations. Now let's look at the characteristics of solvents. I'm going to talk about a few common non-toxic solvents that are used in herbal extractions, along with their polarity, medicinal compounds that they extract best, formulations they're best suited for, and some conditions that they may address. So hopefully you got your pens and pad out. Let's start with number 1, water. Now water is highly polar. It extracts hydrophilic compounds, saponins, glycosides, and some alkaloids. It's best used for formulations that are teas, decoctions, syrups. And the conditions that, this type of solvent is good for is general health, digestive issues, and maybe some mild anxiety. The next solvent is ethanol. Now, ethanol is polar. It can extract a wide range of compounds, including alkaloids, glycosides, flavonoids. Typical formulations using ethanol are tinctures and liquid extracts, and you can use ethanol for a variety of conditions, which include stress, sleep issues, or even immune support. It's a very, you can use it for a variety of different things. The next solvent is glycerin. It is very polar. It extracts similar to ethanol, but it's not as efficient. Now, as far as formula, you can use it for alcohol-free tinctures, especially when you have children, because sometimes you probably don't want your kids drinking alcohol, or maybe somebody may have an alcohol issue. And so glycerin is one of those solvents that would be a good alternative, especially for those folks. Typical conditions that you could use glycerin to address is skin conditions, coughs, colds, and even sore throats. The next solvent is vegetable oils. Vegetable oils such as olive oil, coconut oil, they are nonpolar, and they can extract fat-soluble compounds as well as essential oils. So you can use them in formulations such as your infused oils, salves, and balms. And you can use those to address conditions such as skin conditions, muscle aches. You can use it for aromatherapy. All right, so that's vegetable oils. The next solvent that I want to talk about is vinegar. Now, vinegar is polar. It extracts alkaloids and some minerals. You can use it in different formulations as an herbal vinegar, and you can use it as a digestive aid or even a topical application. So I know you're probably like, okay, well, thank you for that information. Now that I know about solvents, what their characteristics are, I know about polarity, yada, yada, yada. How do I choose the right solvent to extract the desired compound from medicinal herbs effectively? What are some key things that I would need to remember when considering which solvent to use? So here are some key points that you need to remember when considering which solvent to use. I know I said that already, but I have to say it again. Number one, you need to consider polarity. We talked about that already. You want to match the solvent's polarity to the target compound's polarity. So for example, in order to extract caffeine from coffee beans, right, you want to use water, which is a polar solvent, to extract the caffeine, which is a polar compound. So it's almost like attracts like, if you want to look at it that way. Number two, you also want to know about solubility. So you want to choose a solvent that effectively dissolves the target compounds. An example of this is to extract essential oils from lavender, you can use ethanol, which can dissolve both the polar and the non-polar compounds that are found in the plant. So again, solubility. And like I told you before, the easiest thing to kind of consider, like dissolves like. So if you want to keep that principle in consideration, do that, because polar solvents dissolve polar compounds and non-polar solvents dissolve non-polar compounds. The other thing you want to consider is selectivity. So select a solvent that extracts the desired compounds while leaving the other compounds that you don't necessarily need behind. An example of this is use glycerin to extract flavonoids from chamomile, as it is less likely to extract the tannins compared to alcohol. And we know tannins also come with that bitter flavor, and sometimes we don't want that. You know, especially if we're talking about chamomile, maybe we want the lighter effects of it. Number four, you want to know about the chemical properties of your target compounds. So consider specific characteristics of your target compounds. So for example, when you're extracting vitamin C from rose hips, use a water or a water alcohol mixture at room temperature, as vitamin C is heat sensitive. So you want to know about the characteristics, the sensitivities, all of this stuff matters. And I know a lot of people are like, you don't get that deep. It does if you want to be effective. It does if you're interested. It does if you want it to work. So know those compounds. All right, so the next thing that you would want to look at is the extraction efficiency. So some solvents are more effective for certain compounds. An example of this is to extract curcumin from turmeric, ethanol is more efficient than water alone. Another thing you need to look at is the downstream processing. So consider solvent removal after extraction. So let's say if you're making vanilla extract and you use ethanol. Well, ethanol allows for easy use in baking without needing to actually remove the solvent. So think about that in your herbal formulation. Another thing you want to consider is safety and regulations. And because I know now that I do have some international listeners as well as those within the state, you want to ensure that the solvent you're using is safe as well as compliant with regulations in your country. That is very important because some countries don't allow for certain solvents for some reason. I have no idea, but you just want to make sure that you understand those regulations. The other side of that and making sure that the solvent is safe, an example could be, let's say for children's herbal syrup. So you would rather use glycerin instead of an alcohol in order to make sure that your child is first of all, not getting drunk. Number two, making sure that it's safe. You know what I mean? You want to keep your children safe at all costs. And so using glycerin instead of alcohol would be a better choice. So considering the safety regulations is important. And then the final thing that you want to consider is the solvent mixtures. So sometimes solvent combinations are more effective than just the singular formula. So to extract a wide range of compounds, let's say from echinacea, use a mixture of water and ethanol, like maybe a 60-40, 60 ethanol, 40 water. And these solvent combinations can tend to be more effective. Understand that when you're talking about solvents, some of this is going to involve experimentation. Some of this is going to involve, trying out, seeing what you think works, trying to see exactly what compounds are actually being pulled, that type of stuff. Make it fun. Don't make it stressful at all. Take notes and pay attention to the solvents you're using, as well as make sure that they are appropriate for the type of plant property that you are trying to grab. And if you can get that understanding down, then you will find yourself having a very potent herbal formulation that is going to be more targeted. You want something that's going to zero in exactly on the nerve, in your back, right near your sciatic nerve. We want to make sure we target it as best as we can. And understanding these things about solvents and how they're able to pull out the medicinal properties, this is very, very, very important. So thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into solvents and their vital role in herbal formulation. I've explored what solvents are, their characteristics, how to choose the right one for your herbal preparation. Now remember, understanding polarity as well as the properties of solvents is very key to creating effective and potent herbal remedies. If you have found this episode helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all my social media accounts at The Demystified Herbalist. Keep learning, keep growing, keep experimenting, stay safe, and stay tuned for more informative podcasts. And until next time, family, I'm out.